with one voice and consent of tongue and heart, publish and proclaim that the Prince John Philip Arthur George is now, by the death of our late sovereign of happy memory, become our only lawful and rightful liege lord, Charles III, by the grace of God of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of his other realms and territories, King, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, to whom we do acknowledge all faith and obedience with humble affection, beseeching God, by whom kings and queens do reign, to bless his majesty with long and happy years to reign over us. God save the king!
God save the king!
I now invite those on the platform to sign the proclamation.
Good morning, Secretary President of the Council and the Clerk of the Privy Council who are leading the proceedings here today, and the new Prince of Wales, Prince William, signing the proclamation, the accession proclamation that has just been read. Will be followed by the Queen Consort, both Privy Councillors since 2016. And now, other members of the platform party, beginning with Penny Morgan. We've just taken on this role in the last few days or so, adding her name. And the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Marley. And he's followed by the Archbishop of York. And it's been really documented that he's studied this for 50 years, he's never seen it before. What did you really get so far?
It is a very moving and solemn ceremony. It's rooted in the past, but a confirmation of the fact that Charles is the king, doesn't make him king, it confirms the fact that he is the new king. And in a sense, it's a very solemn perhaps we'll never see again.
And hearing, as we have done a couple of times over the past few years, God save the king. It takes somebody to live the book.
It still does, and I think it's very powerful. We saw all those former prime ministers who know so we're all together. God save the king. And also the slight tremble in the voice of the clerk of the council, Richard Tilbrook, as he read out the proclamation. People in that room are feeling very not surprising. And then we see, of course, the Field Marshal, like the Royals with black armbands. It's I mean, this is what to see.
Drafts of 8 orders of council. 1. Ordering the proclamation to be printed and published in specialist supplements in the London, Edinburgh and Belfast Gazettes. 2. Directing the Lord Chancellor to affix the Great Seal to the proclamation proclaiming His Majesty King Charles III. 3. Directing the Kings, Heralds and Pursuivants of Arms to attend at the Court of St. James to proclaim His Majesty King Charles III. 4. Directing the Lord Mayor, the Court of Aldermen and Commons of London, to attend at the Royal Exchange to proclaim His Majesty King Charles III. 5. Directing His Majesty's Secretary of State for Defence to give directions for the firing of guns at Hyde Park as soon as His Majesty is proclaimed. 6. Directing the Constable of His Majesty's Tower of London to give directions for the firing of guns at the Tower of London as soon as His Majesty is proclaimed. 7. Directing His Majesty's Secretary of State for Scotland to cause the proclamation for proclaiming His Majesty King Charles III to be published in Scotland. 8. Directing the Clerk of the Council to issue circular letters for causing His Majesty King Charles III to be proclaimed are hereby approved. And that concludes the business for this part of the Council. I now invite the deputation party to accompany me to wait on the King in the Council chamber.
Prince of Wales and the Queen Consort leading the platform party out of the pitch gallery at St James's Palace, and a very short 10 minutes or so opening part to this Accession Council. That was part 1. The proceedings will move shortly into the throne. The party now goes into the council chamber, which we won't see, but they will all move there and greet the new king. And that is part 1 of this proceedings. There is a lot of change. The party of witnesses led there by Penny Morton and her new role will start proceedings. The Queen Consort, the new Prince of Wales, and there behind them, King Charles III.
Business for part 2 of the Council. Your Majesty, to make your declaration.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, it is my most sorrowful duty to announce to you the death of my beloved mother, the Queen. I know how deeply you, the entire nation, and I think I may say the whole world, sympathise with me in the irreparable loss we've all suffered. It is the greatest consolation to me to know of the sympathy expressed by so many to my sister and brothers, and that such overwhelming affection and support should be extended to our whole family in our loss. To all of us as a family, as to this kingdom and the wider family of nations of which it is a part, my mother gave an example of lifelong love and of selfless service. My mother's reign was unequalled in its duration, its dedication and its devotion. Even as we grieve, we give thanks for this most faithful life. I am deeply aware of this great inheritance and of the duties and heavy responsibilities of sovereignty which have now passed to me. In taking up these responsibilities, I shall strive to follow the inspiring example I have been set in upholding constitutional government and to seek the peace, harmony and prosperity of the peoples of these islands and of the Commonwealth realms and territories throughout the world. In this purpose, I know that I shall be upheld by the affection and loyalty of the peoples whose sovereign I have been called upon to be, and that in the discharge of these duties, I will be guided by the counsel of their elected parliaments. In all this, I am profoundly encouraged by the constant support of my beloved wife. I take this opportunity to confirm my willingness and intention to continue the tradition of surrendering the hereditary revenues, including the Crown Estate, to my government for the benefit of all, in return for the sovereign grant which supports my official duties as head of state and head of nation. And in carrying out the heavy task that has been laid upon me, and to which I now dedicate what remains to me of my life, I pray for the guidance and help of Almighty God.
I have with humble duty to crave your Majesty's permission for the publication of your gracious speech.
Approved.
Concerning the security of the Church of Scotland.
I understand that the law requires that I should, at my accession to the Crown, take and subscribe the oath relating to the security of the Church of Scotland. I am ready to do so at this first opportunity. I, Charles III, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of my other realms and territories, King, Defender of the Faith, do faithfully promise and swear that I shall inviolably maintain and preserve the settlement of the true Protestant religion as established by the laws made in Scotland in prosecution of the claim of right, and particularly by an act intituled An Act for Securing the Protestant Religion and Presbyterian Church Government, and by the acts passed in the Parliament of both kingdoms for union of the two kingdoms, together with the government, worship, discipline, rights and privileges of the Church of Scotland. So help me God.
I now invite your Majesty to subscribe both copies of the instrument, confirming the oath has been taken.
Signature from the new king on the oath that he has just declared in front of the Privy Council. And now witnesses will also add their signature to the document.
I now invite the witnesses to His Majesty's oath to sign both copies of the instrument.
And that will begin with the new Prince of Wales, Prince William. He will be followed by the Queen Consort. And now those documents have been turned around because there are other witnesses waiting by the side of the platform who will also add their signatures to it. And just to be clear, Robert Hardman, what we're seeing being signed here, this is about the oath to the Church of Scotland.
Yes, it's preserving the settlement of the Church of Scotland. It underlines the sort of difference in the monarch's role in the Church of Scotland and the Church of England. The Church of England, that will come separately. We just heard that in relation to this section of the proceedings. There's no reference to the Church of England. This is all about Scotland. Scotland is where, for the next few days, in fact, a lot of this, our attention will focus as the Queen, the late Queen, is brought to Holyrood House and then to St Giles's Cathedral in Edinburgh. This sort of presages a very Scottish dimension to this.
And that was indeed Alistair Jack, the Secretary of State of Scotland, adding his signature now. Westminster, Nicola Sturgeon, and Brandon Lewis has already added his signature to the document. You can hear the bands outside taking up their place, because shortly we will be going out into Flowery Court just outside these windows, where the new King will be proclaimed publicly. The Lord Advocate of Scotland, Dorothy Bain, adding her signature to both copies of that oath.
There's in the background the private secretary to the King, Clive Alderton, and the private secretary to the late Queen, Sir Edward Young, standing side by side.
And that the Lord President of the Court of Session, Lord Carloway, who was the last, I think, to sign the oath.
Draft of an order in council authorising your Majesty's declaration to be made public. Draft of an order in council for recording the oath relating to the security of the Church of Scotland, to be transmitted to the Court of Session, to be recorded in the books of Sederant, and afterwards lodged in the State Papers of Scotland and in the Council Register. Draft order in council determining the form of proclamation for proclaiming your Majesty in the realms and in the British Overseas Territories. Draft of an order in council authorising the Lord Chancellor to make use of the Great Seal for sealing all things whatsoever that pass the Great Seal until another Great Seal be prepared and authorised. Draft of an order in council authorising the Lord Privy Seal, if need be, to make use of the existing Privy Seal until another Privy Seal is prepared and authorised. Drafts of 3 orders in council authorising your Majesty's principal Secretaries of State, the Lord Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, to use the existing seals until other seals be prepared and authorised. Draft of an order in council authorising your Majesty's Secretary of State for Northern Ireland to make use of the existing Great Seal of Northern Ireland until another seal be prepared and authorised.
Approved.
Draft of an order in council authorising Your Majesty's First Minister of Scotland to make use of the Great Seal of Scotland until another Great Seal of Scotland be prepared and authorised.
Approved.
Draft of an order in council authorising Your Majesty's First Minister of Wales to make use of the existing Welsh seal until another Welsh seal be prepared and authorised.
Approved.
Draft of an order in council authorising the public seals authorising the respective public seals lately in use elsewhere than in the United Kingdom to be made use of until new seals be prepared and their use duly authorised.
Approved.
Draft of an order in council confirming Your Majesty's wishes in relation to the Sovereign Grant Act 2011 to continue the tradition of surrendering the hereditary revenues, including the Crown Estate, to your government for the benefit of all, in return for the sovereign grant, which supports your official duties as head of state and head of nation. Drafts of 2 proclamations. 1. Appointing the day of Her late Majesty's state funeral as a bank holiday in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. 2. Appointing the day of Her late Majesty's state funeral as a bank holiday in Scotland. And of 2 orders in council directing the Lord Chancellor to affix the Great Seal to the proclamations.
Approved.
I now invite Your Majesty to sign both proclamations.
Wasn't it? It's making sure there is nothing in the way for this new monarch, that business can continue as usual. The speed of this, though, is quite something, isn't it?
It is something. I thought in the King's declaration, I mean, he was going out of his way to emphasise continuity. Continuity, that's what monarchy stands for. Everything I do will be following the inspiring example of my mother. He said, irreplaceable, he called her. There was a human dimension in there as well. He talked about his sister and his brothers. But there was business in there as well. Very interestingly, he alluded to
Your
the...
Majesty concludes today's business for the Council.
So the royal party leave the throne room. Moving into position, as they have done over centuries, for 300 years. This is taking place at the time of having this
Sa ano? Paano mo naraman? Ganduna? Lang. Tulo? Dua lang. Maraan dati.
Inform man ako sa niyo. Ito ka sa stele. Wala.
King's Palace detachment of the King's Guard alongside the band of the Cold Street Palace. And on the balcony there, the trumpeters, the state trumpeters of the household cavalry. The Guard of the King of Arms is accompanied by the Earl Marshal and other officers of arms, and the Sergeant at Arms will make the first and principal proclamation. David finds White, the Guard of the King of Arms. We will shortly see. The crowd's there and hands aloft with the camera phones waiting to catch this moment. Robert Hardman is bringing it in. It is a simple moment, but it is a highly significant one.
Whereas it has pleased Almighty God to call to his mercy our late Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth II, of blessed and glorious memory, by whose decease the crown of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is solely and rightfully come to the Prince Charles Philip Arthur George. We, therefore, the Lord Spiritual and Temporal of this realm, and members of the House of Commons, together with other members of Her late Majesty's Privy Council, and representatives of the realm and territory, aldermen and citizens of London and others, do now hereby, with one voice and consent of tongue and heart, publish and proclaim that the Prince Charles Philip Arthur George is now, by the death of our late sovereign of happy memory, become our only lawful and rightful liege lord, Charles III. By the grace of God, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of his other realms and territories, King, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, to whom we do acknowledge all faith and allegiance with humble affection, beseeching God, by whom kings and queens do reign, to bless his majesty with long and happy years to reign over us. Given at St. James's Palace, this 10th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 2022. God save the King! cheers for His Majesty the King. Hip, hip. Hip, hip. Hip,
So it's about party. We're back inside St James's Palace. The opening that has been created for them by literally removing the window of Robert Hutton. That was quite a moment, isn't it?
That really was. I mean, there we had Guards for King of Arms, doing what Guards for King of Arms has done for centuries. We just saw a piece of British Army drill you very rarely see of the
Dan na, guys?
Austrian Guards doing